What's going on? It's Luke here again from Smitty's Encounters. Today we are going to finish this lift kit. So, as you can see, I've got a doohickey in my hand. I don't even know what it's called. Borrowed it. As you can see here on the ute tray is the control arms or lower arms or whatever you want to call them out of the front of the 80 series. As you can see, it's suspended. The diff housing is on stands. It's just being held by the overhead because my engine crane's not here and I'm not going to go get it. So today we are going to find a spanner for this bugger. Hopefully, today we can replace the factory rubbers with castor correction rubbers so this thing doesn't drive like a pig. Quite fun. Normally the workshop does this when you do a lift kit, but considering I'm doing this at home in the garage, I've borrowed that off of Maybe Works for a tyre suspension mob. Got all long weekend to do it. So all mate said was drown them in some CRC, which they are. They've been drowning overnight, so keep soaking in. I don't know if it's soaking into the rubber or into the bush, but we'll see how we go and bring these along. So now that we found the spanner and the socket to work with everything, I've never actually used one of these things, so we'll see how we go. I'll wind that back. The one thing I was told was do not use rattle gun or impact on these because the threads will bind, obviously. So let's push that up the tray a bit. And we'll put that one on there. And the fun part, we've got to wind that all the way up. I'm grabbing the impact. Using the impact to wind it up. Here we go. Bush is coming out now. Look in there. Can you see in the hole? I'll do that again. Reset it. So finally, after setting up for, what, 3 different setups, we've finally got where the bush is coming out. So you can actually see through this hole that the bush is moving. I think I'll do this 4 more times. And then I gotta do it 4 more times to put the new bushes in. Great fun. I literally just had to move the control arm further into the vise just to get the right perch so I can get the right angle on it. So it also helps that I'm not leaning on too. I think that's what it was, me binding it up, because even though I'm pushing on it, I'm binding and twisting. So having that to a set position, making sure it's just covered in lubricants, this bush is about to pop out. Here we go. Almost there. There we go. Now that's how you get your old bush out. I would just use a vise, but my vise is nowhere near big enough for this thing. I'm a bit out of breath. My arms are sore, and here I am doing another arm workout. It's all good. So what we do is take that off. There's your old bush there. So all you have to do is get the bit of build up. There's a lip there, there's also a lip there. As you can see, they're a press fit. Bin. Now we'll put one of them new ones in, but I'll probably actually pull the other one out. That way I can use my template to make sure I'm putting the right spot, because they're offset bush. Being a 2 and 3 degree castor bush, they're offset. So I would like to go full solids, but considering I'm not keeping the vehicle, there was, if I was going to keep the vehicle, I would have put complete solids in it, but there's none actually around at the moment. So we'll just put rubbers back in it, offset rubbers. As long as they're to the right, left, they should be fine. That'll be the fun part, trying to get it to go in properly. I might actually see if the press will push them in. I think it's just getting them out. They need to be well lubricated. Getting them in, they're putting a bit of smuts on it, but there is definitely a lip there where it's had build up. So, leave the rag in it. Okay, get some other stuff now, and we'll come back to this. No, it's already. You've got to get that in the right spot. That's it, just on that edge. There we go. No, that one's going to come off again. So when it jolts like that, you've got to reset because it slips ever so slightly to one side. That's really giving me the shits. So we're back now after fiddling with this thing and trying to get it on a dozen different occasions, a dozen different occasions to work properly. I found a socket that literally fits in there just. So I flipped it over, and then there's a washer here to stop the bottom of that nut munting itself on the thread. Guess what? We have a bush coming out. So if you look in the hole here, you can see the bush slowly pushing through. And this is about 5 times easier than the first bush we pulled out. So I spent a good time trying to get the bush pulled the right way, but doesn't want to play a game. So we're doing it this way. The only issue is that thread's not doing up. It's doing up the thread off this nut. So now I've just run out of socket. I don't think I have a socket big enough. But what we have is a giant nut bucket. So, oh, that's a lot tighter. It's gonna make for some fun workouts. Now the danger of rounding this nut off is very high. But that shifter is staying tight on them jaws. So it really shouldn't round the edge of the nut off. If it feels like it's gonna slip, I'll check the jaws. But this is the way that's working without damaging any of the tooling. Just gotta, yeah, just a little bit more. The bush is almost fully out. And then we'll put the new bushes in after I clean the edges of this up so I can put the alignment mark on it. It was very crucial to get the hole for your bush in the right spot. Here we go, there's the bush. It's just come out. Now, Papa, I gotta pull that thread off to get that out. So, I'll pull it apart and I'll show you how I've that nuts. So, obviously the bush was on there. That was sitting. It was actually pushing on that, on the center point. So if anything, it could have actually torn out, but then that outer rim would have grabbed the shoulder. So you can see it's actually munted inside edge of the bush, trying to use this edge. I think that edge has gotten a bit of a wear on it, but I used one of my sockets and a 3/4 inch drive, literally just fits in there. And then I put a washer on that edge there, so it sits there, because that edge sits in there. So on this one, see, the washer sits almost tight in there. So I found a nice thick washer. I think this is actually a pinion washer. It just sits on that collar, stops the threads touching this surface, because on the socket it touches. So using a hard washer as a spacer, like that, pulled that bush out first hit. I literally tried a dozen times, different angles, flipping the arm over, rolling the arm, putting this in the other way, trying to pull it back through the other way. Doing that, literally pulled it out in the first hit. So I'll now pull that out, I'll clean it up. We'll grab our cheat sheet. So obviously you need some control. You have 80 series, 100 series cruiser, so I've got to mark my center points. So now that we've got that bush out, we've cleaned the surface up with the wire wheel on the grinder, because I can't get to my bench wire wheel. Now I've knocked the lines in the template. Like you have your line there and your line there, that's your patrol side obviously. And now I've hit it with some red marker to get the transfer. So the bush has to sit that way, which is going to be fun. So that bush sits this way, the other bush sits here. So that one sits that way, and this one sits that way. And then, once we get them in, we get the fight with the front end to try and get them back in. So, now I can see why on your big lift vehicles, so like your second stage manufactured vehicles, so your new cruisers, they're all, like J-Max, Superior, do a castor corrected arm. So this arm is rebuilt out of a different material, and well, it's made brand new out of a different material, and it's got more of a kick in there, and that's how you get your bush location, because this is actually kind of tricky. So what we do here is I'll grab that, I'll try and line it up around that as good as possible, then we'll press it back in and hopefully it's in the right spot. So the other issue I was having with this is they don't quite sit on the right edge, so it was wearing that corner out, and therefore that hole would collapse ever so slightly, and they would end up in there, and it would start pressing sideways, therefore binding this into the front of the arm, therefore buggering it. So now I'll start fighting with it, putting them back in. The back bush is in. That was a pain in the butt. Now we've got this front bush going in. It does take a bit to get it to go in, but again, the trusty old copper hammer. I set it in with the copper hammer at first, just tapping around the edge. I could feel it pushing in. So now I'm pressing it into the vise with the bearing press. Now, this isn't a strong bearing press. This one's only, I think it's what, 20 ton? But it wouldn't press the old bushes out. So, get the new bush going in. Get most of the way home. You feel it pushing on the bottom. So undo the press a little bit. Go in that last little bit. I gotta set them just right. Use a trusty old. Might actually change that piece. If I can undo that again, there we go. Put the socket out and put the cut we used to pull them out on top. Now this press is almost at its max as well. There's not much more stroke left than that, but that's just enough to push that bush home. Like so. Just that last little bit. There we go. Now, in the kit, it also says that they have to be 185 center to center. And they were almost spot on. So if you want to do it the cheat way, you measure from the front lip of this hole to the front lip of that hole. Make sure there's no contaminant in your way. We're dead. We're about 186. So they should actually go in with a bit of a wiggle. But now just to get this car stable, it is stable. The diff is sitting on the cradles. We'll put this arm in. And just make sure that what I've done is correct. Otherwise, I can still use the cups to get the bush back out. Plus, kind of hurt to stand around. So I'll go to that side first. All I need is my socket and my 24mm spanner, and we'll go put this side, passenger side in, and then we just rinse and repeat to the driver's side. So now that we have the rear, the diff and the chassis in, I use a pry bar here because I can roll the diff. I don't really want to be under here, but I've got no other choice. So that's that in. Then find the bolt. Get that in there that way. And I can, if you'd rather use a solid chunk of steel, this is just a tire iron, obviously. Use a podgy bar, pry bar. I just use that and that, and give it a bit more of a wiggle as she goes in. The driver's side should be a lot easier now because this is holding the diff in its rotation. While we're under here, you can see the brand new brake lines from caliper to hardline, from diff to chassis, front and rear are done. The suspension, they are a second-hand coil. The coil's actually moved. That's where that coil is meant to sit, because there's a relief there, like so. I don't know how that one twisted, or I just didn't check it, but now we'll have the same fun for the driver's side. that's that side done. The other side I just done up the housing. I haven't done the chassis side up because you wait till all the weight's on the vehicle and all the vehicle weight's on these. So now once this is in, I'll put it back down on the stands. I won't put the wheels on yet because I've still got to bleed the brakes, which will also be the servo's job, but it won't be in the video. So yeah, now the fun part, I get to fight with an exhaust because as you can see, the exhaust goes through the damn wheel arch. I don't know why. I guess it's because there's not actually much room inside the chassis there, like in my rig. But even 70 series, they brought the exhaust out through the wheel well. It's annoying because it's all caked in mud and yeah, that's shit on your eyes and yeah, not fun. So we'll climb under here again and where's my bolt? Need my bolt. And we'll put this exhaust, I'll put this control arm back in, whatever you call it. I don't know its actual name. All I know is a heavy bugger. So the nut and washer go together. Swings in, that goes on. I'll just put the washer and the nut on there. A couple of threads so you know where they are. Yep. And then we will put this side in. So this is going to be fun. Got a podgy here. So now that is back in and sorted, there's not much left to do with this car, and hopefully it'll be out of my garage because this thing needs work shortly. So in the not too distant future, this thing will be getting my ute will be getting a second rebuild.